What's up, y'all? Welcome to Gameonysus Weekly, your one-stop shop for video game news. I'm your host, Janet Garcia, aka Gameonysus, and I'm going over the biggest news stories so that you don't have to. Today we're talking about Xbox changing its pricing for Live Gold and then being like, actually, never mind, we take it back, basically immediately, as well as the Resident Evil Village showcase and the hands-on demo, plus a whole lot more. Starting with Xbox changing its pricing and then taking it back pretty much immediately. This was really shocking. I'm still recovering from the news of this story because, frankly, I don't think we've seen anything like this, and I never would have predicted this would happen. On Thursday, Xbox put out a post explaining their new pricing for Live Gold, which is how to play games online. It's also how you get games with gold as well. Here were the proposed price changes: 1 month for $10.99, 3 months for $29.99, 6 months for $59.99, and 1 year for $119.99, which comes out to being double the price of PlayStation Plus, which is Sony's equivalent service. Naturally, a lot of people were upset by this. Admittedly, I don't have a big horse in this race. I am more of a Game Pass user than an online player, so if I'm going to do anything, I'm either going to do Game Pass or I'm going to do Game Pass Ultimate for the little bit of extra money. And a lot of people saw this in several ways. One way being them really trying to push people towards Game Pass Ultimate because at such a high price point, you might as well get Game Pass Ultimate. So sort of not eliminating gold, but pricing it so obscenely high that it just makes sense to go a little bit higher. And of course, people were upset at this price hike because we're currently in a pandemic, and this also goes really strongly against Xbox's consumer-friendly model that they've had so far. They were really emphasizing on giving you different options to play, providing these different pricing options, giving customers different ways to pay for consoles, allowing you to use last-gen controllers on the Series X. And all of this fits really well towards their consumer-friendly ethos that they've established. So when they announced this price change, it really went against a lot of what people like about Xbox. They've since decided against this. Actually, later that same evening, Friday evening, 8:52 p.m., they released this update to that post, saying, quote, "We messed up today, and you were right to let us know. Connecting and playing with friends is a vital part of gaming, and we failed to meet the expectations of players who count on it every day. As a result, we have decided not to change Xbox Live Gold pricing. We're turning this moment into an opportunity to bring Xbox more in line with how we see the player at the center of their experience. For free-to-play games, you will no longer need an Xbox Live Gold membership to play these games on Xbox. We are working hard to deliver this change as soon as possible in the coming months. If you are an Xbox Live Gold member already, you stay at your current price for renewal. New and existing members can continue to enjoy Xbox Live Gold for the same prices they pay today. In the US, $9.99 for 1 month, $24.99 for 3 months, $39.99 for 6 months, and $59.99 for retail 12 months. Again, this is super wild, but good on Xbox. I mean, they made a bad move, people didn't like it, and they were like, you know what? We're just not going to do it. And not only are they rolling it back, but they're actually making an improvement with allowing you to do free-to-play games without needing gold. Like, that's a huge deal and not something that everyone else is offering. So at the end of the day, we actually ended up with a better Xbox Live Gold than we had at the start of it, which I never would have guessed happening. Now, there are a few cynics online saying that this was all like a marketing ploy and like they rolled out a bad plan on purpose to like bring it back and seem like they're really pro-consumer. I don't think anyone would take that kind of risk or put that that's just way too wild for me to see as a viable possibility. That's very 3D chess. I don't think that's at all what happened. I think they decided to make this shift and it was so negatively received that they changed their mind. But yeah, it is bonkers what just one day can do to a story. As I mentioned last week, the Resident Evil Village showcase went down. We got more details on the game as well as a playable demo. Here's what you need to know about RE8. Story-wise, as mentioned on the official website, it is, quote, set a few years after the horrifying events in the critically acclaimed Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. The all-new storyline begins with Ethan Winters and his wife Mia living peacefully in a new location, free from their past nightmares. Just as they are building their new life together, tragedy befalls them once again when BSAA Captain Chris Redfield attacks their home. Ethan must once again head into hell to get his kidnapped daughter back. Gameplay-wise, you can expect a lot of puzzles, inventory management, crafting, optional objectives, and a merchant, which people are really excited about because of those Resident Evil 4 vibes. We also found out about a multiplayer game that will be free if you buy Resident Evil Village RE-verse, which has characters from throughout the franchise battling against each other in third person. This is something that everyone was like, okay. It's not exactly something that's super exciting. I think the multiplayer in Resident Evil has never been something that anyone's really found particularly noteworthy. So this is more of like a fun fact, and it's sort of meant to celebrate the 25-year-long history that is Resident Evil. And then one of the most exciting things we got out of the Resident Evil 8 showcase was the Maiden demo. This is exclusive to PlayStation 5 currently. It's about half an hour long, 15 minutes if maybe you're going through it kind of quickly, and it is a standalone thing. It is not a demo of the game, but it is in the same setting as the game, and it's sort of meant to be a technical showcase of what you can expect visually from Resident Evil Village, as well as introducing you to some of the characters, the enemies, again, the setting. There's no combat, there's no blocking. It's meant to just sort of be this experience teaser into this world. I personally did play it through twice. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was a nice little teaser into some of the puzzle solving, some of the atmosphere, as well as the sort of narrative that's going to be unfolding here. And it did really make me curious to learn more about this world, which I think was sort of the point of the demo to begin with. Looks gorgeous. I'm excited about it. If you have a PlayStation 5, you definitely should check it out because, again, it's a short little thing and just sort of is a little bit of a tease into that universe. And we're still very early in the year. There's not a whole lot out right now, so it was nice to have something to kind of rally around as a gaming community. And the last Resident Evil 8 thing I want to draw attention to is Ash Parrish over at Kotaku figured out how tall Lady Dimitrescu, I may be saying her name wrong, is the hot, tall vampire lady that everyone's going crazy about. And it was definitely just a lot of different math and Googling and trying to find height comparisons and things. I get a really big kick out of this stuff. I think it's super fun. It's really different. It's pretty creative, and it's also poignant to something that a lot of the community is talking about. So I just love that it hits all those layers. And go ahead and read the article because it's some real in-depth work, but the main takeaway is that she is indeed 8 feet tall, so she a big girl. Next up, Sony's new San Diego team is working on existing franchises. This comes from Matt Perslau over at IGN. The studio is working to expand upon existing franchises, according to a LinkedIn profile of the studio's former head. Michael Mumbauer writes, quote, "His latest achievement is having built a new all-star AAA action-adventure development team for PlayStation based in San Diego and utilizing proprietary engine technology. This team was assembled to expand upon existing franchises and craft all new stories for the next generation of gamers." So then, of course, the question becomes, what existing franchise could it be? This article and a lot of other ones point to maybe like some type of Uncharted thing going on. But of course, that's just a theory. Let me know on social media, the comments on YouTube, and via email at gameonysus@gmail.com what you hope they are working on. For me personally, I don't have any big hopes on this. I'm curious to see what it turns out to be, but I'm always a little bit more interested in new stuff rather than iterating on old stuff, so we'll just have to wait and see what comes out. Speaking of new versus the old, Vicarious Visions merged into Blizzard. This comes over from GameIndustry.biz, written by Brendan Sinclair. And the article reads that the publisher told GameIndustry.biz today, and that was written on Friday the 22nd, that it is merging Vicarious Visions into Blizzard Entertainment. And Vicarious Vision, of course, being known for its work on Guitar Hero, Spider-Man, Tony Hawk, Crash Bandicoot, Destiny, Skylanders, and Call of Duty. And a representative explained to them, quote, "After collaborating with Vicarious Vision for some time and developing a great relationship, Blizzard realized there was an opportunity for Vicarious Visions to provide a long-term support." And it is worth noting that Sinclair points out they declined to specify what the team has been working on with Blizzard or for how long. While I wasn't actually a huge fan of Vicarious Vision's latest projects in the way of Crash and Tony Hawk, just because, again, iterating on an old thing just isn't as exciting to me, I am a little bummed to see them go into Blizzard only because I'm not that interested in what Blizzard is doing. Not to say that they're doing bad work or anything, it's just the kind of games they make aren't as appealing to me, and I would have really liked to see Vicarious Vision continue on their own. I do think that they, produce quality products. So yeah, that's a bit of a bummer to me. I think the other thing with this too, with this sort of being rolled in, I don't feel like us as gamers are really going to notice this kind of thing. It's more of the absence of Vicarious as its own entity rather than bolstering up Blizzard. Even if it is doing that, I feel like that difference won't be perceivable from the outside looking in. It'll be more of an inside thing. So yeah, it's just not that exciting of a move as a someone who likes games, even if it makes business sense. And speaking of exciting, people are getting Cyberpunk 2077 refunds and getting to keep the game. This comes from Patrick Klepek over at Vice. This is following up on CDPR making the promise that anyone who purchased a physical copy of Cyberpunk would receive a refund, even if they were unable to return the game to where it was originally bought. And the company is doing that, but in a way that's sort of weird and surprising and interesting. The article reads, Vice Games spoke to several Cyberpunk 2077 owners who submitted requests to CDPR in December and have since been issued those refunds, largely via PayPal. And it even includes things like the collector's edition of the game, which is like almost $300. And the example here shows the person getting that money back for the collector's edition, but they still own said collector's edition. And the source said, I was surprised I didn't need to send it back. So I still have everything. As a customer, I feel they made good on it. Just show proof and we'll return your money. It goes on to say several people told Vice Games the process noted they would have to send back their copy of the game at some point, but none of them have been asked to do so yet. CD Projekt Red did not respond to a request for comment about whether this policy would later be enforced. So we'll just see what happens with this story, but you can basically get your money back and still have the game, which is pretty cool. And also really surprising and just an odd situation. It'll be really interesting to see what they end up doing for following up on that kind of thing. And the story ends by saying, quote, not everyone who requested a refund has heard back from CDPR yet, but the forum says the developer expects to be contacting gamers who filled out this form throughout February and March 2021. And a final follow-up from stories from last week, we have Twitch has indefinitely banned Donald Trump. What's interesting about this is Biden has now officially become president, so Trump is now a, quote, private citizen, and his ban is still indefinite when it comes to Twitch. Here's what a Twitch spokesperson told The Verge via email. The president's statements continue to be interpreted as calls to action, and we are taking this action to remove the potential for harm to our community and the general public. Twitch has clear rules that prohibit hateful conduct, harassment, or incitement of violence on our service, and we consider off-service events when making enforcement decisions. However, the events of the past week have highlighted a gap with respect to rhetoric that encourages violence, regardless of whether or not it was directly streamed on Twitch. We will be updating our policies as a result for our consideration of this situation. And it's worth noting that this suspension means Trump will have no opportunity to appeal the ban on his account. Moving on to rumors and speculation, Resident Evil 7 might be getting a next-gen update for PS5 and Series X/S. This is written up by Ryan Mitzler over at DualShockers, and the rumor itself comes from Twitter from a well-known Resident Evil insider, Dusk Golem, who, when asked by Patrick Klepek if there's any chances for VR, they responded with, I know VR was in at some point, I don't know the current status. To do VR, they need a consistent performance for motion sickness, I guess, to see. There are other things that are 100% happening they for some reason didn't mention here though, like the RE7 Next Gen patch. I think a Next Gen patch would make a lot of sense. Plenty of people probably didn't play the game or want to replay the game or finish the game in preparation for Village. And I personally just want to see next-gen updates for basically everything, especially on PlayStation 5. I just really want to see what they do in horror with the DualSense. I don't know if they'd be able to make enough updates for that to be super noticeable if they did do an RE7 update, but that's what I'm hoping for. And I didn't really feel a lot of that in the Maiden demo. I was kind of disappointed that there wasn't more to that. More from the rumor mill, according to Video Games Chronicle, as written by Andy Robinson, Capcom has overhauled its plan for a Resident Evil 4 remake. And the article states Capcom's in-development Resident Evil 4 remake has seen a major change of leadership due to disagreements over its direction, according to people with knowledge of the project. Robinson writes, multiple sources have indicated that following a key project review late last year, it was decided that M2's role on RE4's remake would be significantly reduced. Capcom's Division 1, the internal team responsible for Resident Evil and Devil May Cry games, has now been brought in to lead the RE4 project. VGC understands. It's believed that the disagreements that led to M2's reduced role involved the studio's desire to stick faithfully to the template of the original Resident Evil 4, partly influenced by backlash to Resident Evil 3's remake, which did not include significant portions of the original PlayStation game, much to fans' disappointment. And again, these are all rumored, but isn't that always the question? How much do you keep it the same? How much do you update it? I personally didn't actually play RE3, and nor would I have had those kind of complaints because I didn't play the original. But I did play RE2 Remake, and I thought that game was phenomenal. And one of the reasons I love that game so much is I thought it did such a good job at seemingly, because I didn't actually play the original, capturing the feeling that people had back when the original came out. That fear, the intrigue, while having these updated quality of life improvements to it and making it feel like a modern game. I've said this before on podcasts, but I think a good remake is a lot like doing a translation. It cannot be completely one-to-one, but you're sort of trying to capture the essence of it. I think with Resident Evil 4, that's a super sensitive topic because so many people love RE4. Like, people are still talking about how phenomenal that game is, and I think if you don't get it right, I'm not going to say it'll necessarily, like, ruin the franchise or anything, but it's going to be very noticeable, and people are going to be looking at that remake with a fine-tooth comb, so you really have to be meticulous about the decisions you end up making. But again, we'll see what happens when it's all said and done, because these are all just rumors for now, just speculation, just things we've heard. As far as delays, nothing very notable game-wise, but there is something notable game-adjacent, and that's that the Uncharted movie got delayed again to 2022, and this comes from GameIndustry.biz as written by James Batchelor. At this point, I feel like that movie is just that one screenshot of Tom Holland. I don't know when this is coming out, I feel like this thing's never coming out, but I'm very excited to see what the world looks like when it does come out, because I think it'll be very far away and that things will be very different for all of us by then. As far as game events, releases, and updates, I do want to point out that Bugsnax is not over. This also comes from Ash Parrish over at Kotaku. Ash is killing it over there, and they had an interview with the senior creative director and writer of Bugsnax and got some really interesting questions in. It does get into spoiler territory, and the interview is spoiler tagged, so don't read it unless you've played the game or you're okay with spoilers for the game. But without giving too much away, this reveals we're still figuring out what exactly we want to do post-release, but we're definitely not done working on Bugsnax yet. So we're still not sure if this is going to be a DLC, if this will be a sequel, if this will be free or paid, but it is cool to know there's more Bugsnax ahead of us than behind us, hopefully. I really love this game. I thought it was brilliant and fun, and this sounds very simplistic, but the clicking of the camera with the DualSense on PS5, so good. So good. Plus, it was just really charming and creative, and this story was actually very interesting. Highly recommend this game. Those who are still playing Genshin Impact will want to make note that there is a Lantern Rite celebration that's happening February 3rd. Again, as someone who doesn't play this game, I don't have a lot to add to this other than the lanterns look really pretty, so hop over to the PlayStation blog and read more about it if that's something you are interested in checking out. And lastly, I just want to point out that Wales Interactive has a new FMV game coming out. It's called I Saw Black Clouds. The description is as follows. After the unexpected death of a close friend, Christina returns to her hometown looking for answers, only to unearth a string of dark secrets. I Saw Black Clouds is an interactive psychological thriller with supernatural elements and branching storylines, and that's coming to PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Steam in Q1 of 2021. I've personally only played Late Shift from Wales Interactive, and I love Late Shift. I haven't played their other stuff, so I'm not sure how often their stuff hits for me, but I really loved Late Shift, so I'm excited about this, and FMV games are super fun. If you have not tried them, you really should, especially if you're playing with a group where you can make the decisions. They can be really, really exciting. And of course, Hitman 3 is the big game out this week. I have spent a bit of time with it myself. It was the game I played for my Best of 2021 watch, and that stream went interestingly. It was my first time playing a Hitman game. Definitely a steep learning curve towards just how the control scheme is laid out, how stealth actually works. It's an actual stealth game. You cannot just punch everybody when you get caught, as I learned again and one more time for good measure. But once I sort of got my bearings, I was having a good time with it. It does look really good, visually at least. Still not sure if I'll stick with it yet, but definitely intrigued. And onto our For the Free section. In addition to all that Xbox Live Gold info and drama, we now have February's games with gold, and they are as follows. Gears 5 available February 1st to the 28th. Resident Evil, available February 1st to the 28th. Dandara Trials of Fear Edition, available February 16th to March 15th. And Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, that's OG Xbox, available February 1st to the 15th. And that's everything for this week's show. Be sure to leave your comments and questions down below on YouTube, at me on social media, or email me at gameonysus@gmail.com. And of course, be sure to follow, subscribe, and rate this podcast on your podcasting platform of choice, or all the podcasting platforms, really. You don't use it, just download it, rate it, keep it moving. And as usual, a huge shout out to my patrons over on Patreon who help make this show and all my other content possible. Check it out if you haven't already. That's patreon.com/Gameonysus, and I'll see you next week.